good. So good morning. Yeah, thank you all for coming on a Sunday morning. So we are going to continue with workshop 1. So workshop 1 has four sessions. So this is the third session, and the title is on extreme drought and water risk. So today we have four speakers. So starting with Mr. Joseph Chung, and then with Professor Frederick Lee, Ms. Dawn McGregor, and also Professor Jianping Wang. So each of you will have roughly about 10 minutes for your presentation. After that, I will invite all of you back here on the panel, and then we will let the audience ask questions. So the first speaker, Mr. Joseph Chung, so he is an engineer with the Hong Kong Water Supply Department. So he is going to talk to us about building water resilience in Hong Kong. Thank you.
Good morning.
So you would like the speaker to use microphone?
Yeah, we need to record here.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure to be with you to make a
Is it loud enough?
There's a
Hello. That's better.
Thank you.
Good morning to you all. My pleasure to be here with you to share with you the government's efforts in building up the water security in Hong Kong. First of all, some facts and key statistics. Hong Kong has 7 million people. We have a small area of land of about 1,100 square kilometers, and of which 25% are only built-up area, and the rest of it are the greenland, such as country parks and natural reserve. We do not have any major lakes, any major river, lakes, or underground water resources. And for rainfall, there's quite substantial variation in both the spatial and temporal changing patterns, and the rainfall distribution is uneven. The rainfall in summer can reach 400 millimeters per month, but we also have a very dry weather with minimal rainfall in winters. So our local yield fluctuates between years, and the difference in the quantities could be up to 200 million cubic meters per year. This slide shows the overall total water consumption of Hong Kong in the year 2017. We consumed about 1,200 million cubic meters of water, and of which 26% is local yield, 52% is near potable groundwater, and the remaining 22% is the seawater, which is used for flushing. For the collection of local yield, we have a total of 17 pumping reservoirs with a total storage capacity of about 580 million cubic meters. This provides us with 4 to 6 months storage for total water consumption per year. And in particular, the two surface reservoirs, which is the Purple Cove and the High Island, it accounts for about 80% of our total storage. So Hong Kong did have a water crisis back in the 1950s and 1960s. When we have a surge of immigrants from the mainland China. So Hong Kong has started to import more water from the northern province of mainland China. And at present, the Dongjiang water accounts for about 70% to 80% of our total freshwater supply. And at about the same time, Hong Kong took an innovative approach by making use of the most abundant natural resources here, that is seawater, to conserve the precious freshwater. The seawater supply level now covers about 85% of the total population, and with this free-flowing supply, Hong Kong has been enjoying safe and reliable round-the-clock supply in the last 30 years. So as you can see, Dongjiang water is the major pillar of the freshwater supply. But Dongjiang is currently serving Hong Kong and 7 other major cities with a total population of 40 million of people. There is keen competition for the Dongjiang water resources, and its utilization rate has already reached a level very close to its exploitation limit. Besides, the average annual per capita water resources in the Dongjiang River Basin is only about 1,100 cubic meters, which is lower than the 2,100 cubic meters for the Guangdong province or the 2,200 for the whole China. And also, Hong Kong and the neighboring city are all located in the same climatic regions. The climate change impact or any drought events affecting Hong Kong will similarly impact on the Dongjiang River Basin, putting our water security at risk. So to be a responsible partner, Hong Kong is taking appropriate measures to ensure the sustainable use of the Dongjiang water. So to better prepare Hong Kong for the challenges, the government has promulgated the Total Water Management Strategy in 2008. And the strategy put emphasis on containing the growth of water demand through water conservation and strengthening our water supply. And the government has also announced in the policy address in 2017 and 2018 the target of reducing per capita freshwater consumption in Hong Kong by 10% by the year of 2030. And we are striving hard to achieve the water saving target by water conservation, water loss management, and developing new water resources. And on the water conservation front, we know that the young generation is our future. And we need to instill water conservation concept in them to help develop the water saving habit at a very early age. So we have developed the education kits for kindergartens, primary schools, and the secondary school. And we are also embracing them as the water saving ambassador through various promotional events. And as for the community as a whole, we've been collaborating with various stakeholders, including the green groups and the NGOs to promote the water conservation. We are building a permanent water resources education center, which will be completed next year. And also, we have launched a series of programs, including the installation of flow controller in all the public housing estate by the year 2022, and to change all the water device in the government facilities to water efficiency product. And on the hardware side, we have launched the voluntary water efficiency labeling scheme since 2009, and the scheme now covers 6 types of water device, including shower for bathing, water tank, water machines, urinals, flow controller, and water closet. We have also implemented early this year the mandatory wells to require the use of certain water-saving devices in new premises and the existing premises undergoing renovations. And we are currently working towards the second stage of the mandatory wells through a legislative amendment. And on water loss management, we have completed a massive scale replacement and rehabilitation program for some 3,000 kilometers of aged water main in 2015. The leakage rate was reduced from 25% to about 15%, and the number of water main bursts was reduced from about 2,500 in the year 2000 by over 95% to about 100 in the year 2017. And we are now progressively establishing the water intelligence network by installing the flow controller and pressure sensors to set up a total of 2,000 district metering areas in our water supply network. So we can then connect the water flow, pressure, and leak noise data for continuous monitoring of the health of our water network. And apart from the water conservation and the water loss management measures, which are more on the demand control side, we have been very actively exploiting the new water resources that are unaffected by climate change. So we have embarked on the development of a seawater desalination as a promising new water resources in Hong Kong. The proposed desalination plant will adopt the reverse osmosis technology and will have a water production capacity of about 15 million cubic meters per year, and which is expandable to 100 million cubic meters to meet about 5% to 10% of the overall freshwater supply of Hong Kong by the year 2022. And another kind of the new water resources is the reclaimed water from the treated sewage effluents. And owing to the long distance procurement, it is not always cost-effective to supply seawater to the inland area for toilet flushing. So to save the fresh water, we plan to supply the reclaimed water to this selected location for non-potable users, including toilet flushing started again from the year 2022. And as a pilot scheme, the government will be putting in place a centralized wastewater recycling system for non-potable users at the Anderson Road development site, having a target population of 25,000 people. And separately, the government have issued technical guidelines to encourage the use of these kind of systems in government buildings. And we are also collaborating with the Bean Council to incentivize the developer to adopt this kind of system in private buildings. So in essence, we are moving towards the establishment of a safer and more secure water supply infrastructure consisting of a local use, the imported Dongjiang water, the seawater for flushing as the major water supply sources, and supplemented by the desalinated water, reclaimed water, and the treated wastewater and harvested wastewater. And these 6 water supplies will be the future key pillars, supporting Hong Kong with enhanced water security, reliability, and resilient to meet the water challenges ahead. Okay, thank you.
So our second speaker is Professor Frederick Lee. He is the director of the Center for Water Technology and Policy at the University of Hong Kong.
Right, good morning. Yeah. This is room. We had a meeting at the China Water Risk like 2 weeks ago. We had a meeting with our colleagues at China Water Risk and also Joseph. I've known Joseph for several years now. Yeah. So now what I'm going to talk is going to build on what he has already told you in the Hong Kong government's approach to making Hong Kong's water supply system more resilient, okay, so climate resilient. Yeah. What I'm going to talk about is that there's a need, okay, to re-examine the policy responses put together by the Hong Kong, whether or not they're appropriate, given the nature of uncertainties associated with climate change. Okay. So I'm going to make an argument that the implications, okay, the latest research findings on climate change induced risk for Hong Kong, okay, basically tell us that we need to reassess, first of all, the vulnerabilities, Hong Kong's vulnerabilities to extreme weather events, basically like typhoons, droughts, or floods. And I'm going to show you that with the latest finding research. It tells us that we need to basically move away from this business as usual approach. I mean, this conventional approach may have some problems, okay, in regard to this idea of like achieving some kind of like security or sustainability or even the word resilience. And then we also need to reassess our priorities in terms of how we should prepare for such events like droughts or floods. I'm going to make 3 points. Why do we need to reassess Hong Kong's vulnerabilities? First of all, conventional wisdom is no longer supported by new data. Okay? And I'll give you one example of conventional wisdom. Okay? Conventional wisdom is that, and I think Joseph has already told you in his presentation. I think there's a belief, okay, in the region, also in Hong Kong, there's increasing competition for water in the Greater Peripheral region. So the Greater Peripheral region referred to Hong Kong, SAR, Macau, SAR, and also the 9 cities in the Greater Peripheral region. Okay? When you looked at the river basin that relies on the East River in Chinese Kunjiao, okay, the East River, for water supply, then we realized that look at new data, and we found out that there's not much increased competition. In fact, there's more water than is necessary. Okay, I'll give you the reason why. Okay, so contrary to conventional wisdom that there's increasing competition, I'm going to show you that actually no, it's actually more than enough water for everyone in the at least in the basin. Okay, we rely on this for water. Yeah. Second, our water strategy, okay, and that is I'm referring to the strategy described under the Total Water Management Strategy 2008, like 10 years ago, and that was what was presented or described by Joseph. 3 taps, and then there will be 3 more taps, from 3 taps to 6 taps. Well, that strategy reflects some kind of like institutional lack of institutional applicability. Okay? I'm referring to this idea that maybe we need to look beyond engineering solutions. We need to also take into consideration non-engineering solutions and give more emphasis to the non-engineering solutions, such as conservation, okay? Changing people's mindset and consumption patterns. Okay? Number 3, flood control measures. Control measures right now is very much Hong Kong centric. Like most policy matters in Hong Kong, pretty Hong Kong centric, okay, for good reason. But this Hong Kong colonial legacy has a much stronger impact on how we think about policy responses than most people realize. And I'm going to illustrate why we need to sort of like rethink how to change our mindset, okay, from a very Hong Kong centric to a region-wide perspective, and more than that, a national perspective, okay, on what we should manage. Right now, that is lacking. We don't really think, okay, in terms of one country, meaning what? How could Hong Kong be a part of? This is sort of the jump automatically.
Yes, automatically.
Yeah.
So how should we go back?
I emphasize again.
Forward or backward.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, that's I'll go to the first point. Okay, conventional wisdom is the increasing competition for water in the peripheral region. Yes. Okay. The underlying thinking is that there's an increasing population. Right? Just give you a number, like 40 million people referring to the cities. 6 cities rely on this river for water supply. Okay. So including Hong Kong, yeah. But the new data shows us that total demand for water has already started declining years ago. Okay. Now this is the water consumption figure for the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 city. Not basically like Guizhou, Dongguan. Okay. So what you have there, you have Guizhou, Dongguan, Korea, Shenzhen, Hong Kong. This is Hong Kong. Okay, Hong Kong doesn't really use that much water, okay, compared with the other cities. Yeah, since 2011, okay, that's actually a drop. Okay, so what you have is that you have this increasing demand for water. But since 2011, okay, the total demand has started to decline for two reasons. One, change in economic structure. Okay, that's basically industrialization, meaning land used for agricultural production has been converted into industrial land. Okay? So agriculture use is actually the major user. Okay? I mean farmers. Okay? Farming is actually a major use of water. And then with less land being used for farming, basically the demand for water drop. Second, urbanization. Second, because of this change in the industrial structure, okay? Moving from manufacturing to service-oriented industry. Okay? So in the case of Shenzhen, in the case of Guangzhou, in the case of so what you have is that the factory also uses all the water, but not offices. Okay? So that even though there's an increase in the number of people living in the region, the total demand actually dropped because of two reasons. One, less people are farming. Second, people working in industry, they're moving into service sector industry. But you look at so it's not decline. Yeah. This is even amazing, right? 2003, this is Guangzhou. It's a huge drop. When you have total demand. When you include Guangzhou in a picture, then you realize that total demand for water in this region has declined, okay? There's no increase in competition, okay? The thing about this project, okay, diverting water from the west river, okay, to the eastern part of the belt, that doesn't make sense. I have no idea why they're doing it, except for what? Well, engineering contracts. Yeah. Now, second point, what you have is that you have this business as usual attitude to give a high priority to supply augmentation projects. The idea is what? Well, if there's not enough water, okay, let's invest, okay, in this supply augmentation projects, such as basically dissolved water. Okay. Now, the dissolved water plant being built very closely to this campus, okay, would produce basically is equivalent to about 5% of total demand by 2020. Okay, so it's like 50 million per year. Is that necessary? Well, given the contextual information, basically what? Basically, there's more than enough water. Okay. Now, I'm not questioning the wisdom of turning to what has been described as like climate resilience or climate what's the term for that? Climate independent solution, right? The thing is that maybe it's too early to do this point. Maybe we can wait another 10 years, 15 years, because when we look at the projection or the demand supply, we don't need to turn this on until like 2030 or even 2035. So it's going to be, it's a very good chance that what we are building will remain sort of like not operational, okay, in that sense. So like the one built in Sydney and also in London, they were sitting there for like years and not turned on. Yeah. So climate-wise, water conservation. Okay. Second, a drought contingency plan. Water conservation. Okay. In Joseph's presentation, he has already given you a very good description about many measures introduced by the water supply department. Okay, the water conservation. Well, I think there are two questions. One, has the water conservation campaign been effective? Okay, because this is nothing new. It has been ongoing for at least 10 years. For Hong Kong residents, okay, there's a less say 10 minutes campaign, okay, since 2014. Okay. But when you look at the per capita consumption, okay, since the campaign was launched, per capita consumption has actually gone up, not declined. Okay. In fact, per capita consumption, fresh water consumption, has been on the rise in the last 20 years. Okay? Unlike the trends in other major global cities where the trend has been downward. So, second question, why do we need to conserve water if there's more than enough water? Now on that point, I think there's a need, okay, to somehow connect our water strategy with a national policy initiative, and that is the creation of, not creation, but building ecological civilization, okay, or in English, because we want to pay attention to ecological health, okay, ecosystem health. Now, how do we do that? Basically, I'm making the argument that maybe we need to reduce the amount of water that we import from the East River. By how much? By 50%. Okay? Right now, we're importing 840 million cubic meter per year. Okay? Let's say we reduce it by half in about 10 years' time. Okay? So let's say by 2030, we're going to import like 410 million cubic meter water. Okay? And we can do it because we are other sources, including water conservation, including water recycling, and also the resource plant being built. So we expand that. I look at Singapore's model, and Singapore is reducing its import water from Malaysia. Singapore is using about like right now 25% dissolved water, 40% renewable water. In the case of Hong Kong, renewable water is now, according to the figures given by Joseph, about 2%. Okay? In the case of Singapore, it's 40%. New water, like drinking water, is the target is 2%. I think we can do a lot. Okay? Now, then there's a good argument for us to conserve water, and yet make a contribution to a national policy agenda, which is what ecological civilization, meaning what? How we can, as a city or as a special region, make a significant contribution to a national policy agenda. Okay? Basically, what? Upstream, ecological or ecosystem health. Okay, so leaving aside water that's used for eco services. We also need to work on this. It's on the annual plan. Okay, but it has not somehow not been completed. At least I haven't seen the drought contingency plan. Fully contingency plan for drought. The last point, okay, flood control measures. Flood control measures in Hong Kong is very much Hong Kong centric. Okay, basically about Hong Kong. Okay, so this is a prevention. It's managed by the drainage services department. And well, the reason why I'm making this argument is that this is not sufficient. Is that extreme weather events, okay, bring us basically rainwater, okay, is not just in Hong Kong, right? Heavy rain in southern China as a region. Okay? So if there are major floods in Hong Kong, there are also going to be a lot of water across the border. This is the border separating Hong Kong from consumption. Okay? So what we have is that at least once a year in the last several years, okay, when there's a major storm, okay, rainstorm, creating flood conditions in Hong Kong, they're doing the same in Shenzhen, okay? So Shenzhen will have to release water from its reservoir. There's too much water going into the reservoir. And the water is coming into Hong Kong, causing flooding in northwest, new territories in Hong Kong. Okay? So my argument is that you need inter-jurisdictional coordination cooperation. Right now there's cooperation, but it needs to be strengthened. Okay? Right now, Shenzhen will only give a 3-hour warning to Hong Kong when they can release water from the Shenzhen reservoir. Maybe they can do a better job. Okay? And basically what we need is that we need basically some kind of like inter-jurisdictional coordination mechanism to strengthen this coordination. So my whole argument is that we need to think beyond Hong Kong's border in regard to all this stress caused by climate change and this risk. Okay? So a regional perspective and also a national perspective on how Hong Kong should be a part of this like national strategy. And definitely in terms of operation, inter-jurisdictional cooperation. Okay?
So our next speaker is Dawn McGregor. She is a consultant for the China Water Risk. So she's going to give us a talk.
Okay, good morning everyone. Thank you
Christine and the great HKUST for inviting us to be here today. My presentation is going to be quite different from the two that you've just heard. I'm going to show you how we look at water risk, looking at it from a business and financial perspective, and the real liquidity crisis that we face, and share some of the key findings from our latest report, which questions if Asia has enough water to develop. So maybe just a little bit first on what China water risk is, since we're a bit less known than HKU and WSD. We're a not-for-profit based here in Hong Kong, and we work to place water as a business and financial risk. And we've just gone through a big internal revamp, and our website is all new. We've been around about 7 years now, and we're really happy to say that people have accepted water as a risk and are really looking into it now. And so our focus areas reflect that. We look at waternomics, which is wedding economic planning with water resource management, water risk valuation, looking how the finance sector and investors are valuing water risk, and then business unusual, which you've already heard from Bentley, and that's looking at how business is going to be impacted and how models need to change. And we work in various ways with investors, doing reports, research, events, and so on. And many of our reports are actually available online for free, so if you want to go see, these are some of them. So today, I'm going to walk you through 3 threats, 2 perspectives, and 8 strategies. Asia faces a triple threat. We don't have enough water to develop. Climate change is significantly impacting our rivers, and there's clustered assets along vulnerable rivers. So, the economy runs on water, and Asia doesn't have enough water. At China water risk, to keep things easy, we're talking bathtub waternomics. And so, in the US, each person uses 21 bathtubs per day to generate a GDP of 15,000. Now let's see what other countries have. You can see that China and India, they only have a total of 28 and 20 bathtubs for everything, respectively. And so China could technically use 21 of its 28 bathtubs, then it only needs 7 bathtubs to do everything else. You know, all the washing, all the everything, all the growing the food, everything. India can't do it. And, you know, you see these 2 Asian powerhouses are more similar to a place like Iran than the US. So the reason we put up the slide is to make you realize that, you know, Asia and India, they are in like developed countries, that they're growing. But to continue to grow and develop, they're going to have to do things differently. You can't copy the model by America, you can't copy the model of the West. It's a business unusual future in Asia. And just looking at China, focusing a bit, you know, a lot of places, they're already water scarce. There's groundwater depletion issues, stress issues, and pollution issues, which exacerbates all of the water stress. And to give everyone an idea of how important China is on a global scale, we can see here that they produce anywhere from almost a quarter to 50 to 85% of key raw materials in the world. So these are raw materials that our current economy just can't do without. And so what's happening in China around regulations, looking at placing water high up on the agenda, and the water permits and all the regulations, it's going to have impacts. And on to point 2. Rivers define Asia. You can see here in this slide, looks a bit like a brain possibly as well, but it's all the rivers in Asia. And our latest report, No Water, No Growth, does Asia have enough water to develop, looks at Asia's 10 key rivers. And this is really a bit to what Fred said. We need to look at water not just in Hong Kong, not even just nationally, but in the region, the whole of Asia, if we're really going to have a water secure future. And so this report looks at the 10 key rivers in Asia, Gaya, Indus, Ganges, Irrawaddy, Saloni, Mekong, Brahmaputra and the Tarim, and then closer to home, the Yellow and the Yangtze. And all of these 10 rivers come, or the source is the Hindu Kush Himalayas, which is that white bit in the middle, and it's known as the third pole. You know, in the news you hear about the North Pole, the South Pole, the Arctic melting, and so on. But when is there ever, do you read some news about the third pole?
Just before the
Yeah, I'm doing that. So this report wanted to shine some light on just that. These 10 rivers provide water to 16 countries in Asia. And already 5 of these 10 rivers, more than 50% of their basins are facing high to extremely high water stress. So this situation regionally is already quite severe. And to further complicate matters, 8 of these 10 rivers are transboundary. So it's hard enough working within a country and then say in one system, but how are we going to work across all of these countries? And climate change is now threatening these upper and crucial key watersheds. In the report, we've estimated that there's 7,574 cubic kilometers of ice reserves. And the issue, and what we wanted to do a bit with this report, was to say that there is such little data on these issues, and on the reserves, and on the glaciers, that this is something we need to know more about. Especially since if you see towards the top right, if we manage to stay within a 1.5 to 2 degree raise in global temperatures, which as we know is almost, it's very difficult going to, that would mean a 4-degree rise just in this area. So what's going to happen here, it's important, and it's already going to be exacerbated, so we really need to start focusing on doing more research around here. And given the topic today, put in a little bit of the drought statistics on this report. And you can see that between 2010 and 2017, 41 million people in 8 of these countries have been affected by drought. And this has come out to a cost of $14.6 billion. So a lot of money. And anyone reading the news, you'll see anywhere from India to Australia to the US and California, drought, and it's everywhere. And this climate issues, especially, we spoke about flooding as well. These climate extremes are getting more severe, more frequent, and close to home we had typhoon just recently. And something that we haven't really realized is that since rivers have been used to develop the economy, infrastructure, factories, and so on, we have what's called clustered risk now. Because we built all the infrastructure along these rivers. And these rivers are exposed to floods, to sea level rise, to everything like that. And we can see here that 1.7 billion people from these countries live along these 10 rivers, which is essentially 1 in every 2.5 Asians. So you understand how vital these rivers are to our lives, to our economies. And $4.3 trillion of GDP is at risk. Numbers like this you just can't ignore. And to give some perspective, the report highlights 4 key priority rivers: the Ganges, the Indus, the Yellow, and the Yangtze. And many people compare, when they think of water, similar to the US, they think of the Great Lakes. Lake Erie is the smallest of the Great Lakes. And we can see here, though, that the annual runoff from the Ganges, the Indus, and the Yellow, they don't even fill one of these smallest Great Lakes. So we really are, the water situation in Asia is so different from that in other places that we need our own approach. The Yangtze, okay, twice as much. But you see in China, all the regulations along the Yangtze accounts for 33% of China's GDP, 42% of its population. The Indus for Pakistan, 92% of its GDP, 88% of its population. The yellow, 7% and 9% respectively, not too big. When you look at the Yangtze, 21% and 33%, and you see why there is such focus on changing the dynamic and economic structure along that river. And at the bottom there, you can see the different forecasts and predictions for rainfall and weather patterns and so on, which will impact the flow and so on of these rivers. And an issue that gets very little attention is the financing gap of what we need to do to become more resilient, to protect these people along and these clustered assets, and to ensure growth and continued GDP. We see that there's 3.8 trillion at risk, and only 2 billion has been approved across all of these countries for spending. I mean, it just doesn't make sense, the amount that we're putting into protecting these rivers and our people and our assets. And in the report, there are 8 broad strategies. They're very high level and by no means any solutions. The purpose of the report and showing you this finding was to make you think of what we're facing water-wise in Asia and to get conversations going on how we're going to solve the problems. So these are just some ideas. And then just a quick look on the solution side, what China's doing. There's been complete government reform. You know, water is being mentioned in all high government documents, even by, you know, the Xi'an, Xi Jinping, all of them. This was the reform from the old MEP into the MEE and the MNR. You see very clear and different responsibilities now. Then investors, who we work a lot with, they are seeing water as a material risk, meaning they see their investments, their assets at risk. A lot of this is coming from a regulatory push. They see regulations as one of the biggest drivers for this risk. And this is a report we did where we sat down with 70+ investors to gauge their views on water risk. The tools available, what do they look when they value it, do they even value it, and so on. And then what's still happening in China, banks, which we also work with, are looking at how to deal with water risk. You know, it's going to change your access to capital. Do you have a bad performance review as a company? You know, then your cost of capital will be higher. Do you even get the loan? Things like that. And so really the point of showing you all this was to just think of, to redefine risk. You know, we really need to think of water just beyond the supply that comes into your tap. Think about it in your businesses. You need water to make the raw materials. Is that permit secured in China? Do you have the right treatment technology? Are you compliant? And so on. And yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. So now is our last speaker, Professor Zhang Jinghua. He is the Dean of the College of Atmospheric Science at Montreal University.
So good morning, everyone. Today I would like to talk about accelerate decline of oxygen and dryland conservation. That's we might from a different direction to take a look the impact of climate change. So this is my outline. So we usually very care about the CO2. We focus on CO2 change. However, the oxygen decline is double than CO2. Each year is 4 ppm. but no one cares so far for oxygen decline. So there are many human activities make oxygen consumption, like deforestation, overgrazing, and industry emission and land use. So that, and also the forest fire caused by heat wave consumption a lot of oxygen too. So we know the hypoxias has a strong relation with death, and most diseases in humans are caused by the cellular hypoxias. So I guess maybe the people dies, yesterday I asked, people dies in heartbeat day may be directly related to hypoxias, the old ages hypoxias, you know. So, and also, for example, during third species extinction, the oxygen dropped from the 30% to the 5%. That's because 90% of marine life and 70% of terrestrial life to become extinct. So it's very important we pay attention to oxygen decline because that's related to all of our life. So let's say the oxygen consumption process. There are two faster oxidation processes include the fossil fuel combustion, fire, and for the slow oxidation include the respiration, human and animal, and other oxidation in atmosphere include a photochemical reaction, weathering, resonance, volcanic gas, and so on. So in this study, we may want to consider the fossil fuel combustion, fire, human, and livestock respiration. This picture shows the global mean fossil fuel consumption from 1960 to year 13. So that's for different fossil fuel. That's in a total around 39 gigaton each year. And this picture shows the global distribution for the North American, European, East Asia. It's a major contributor to fossil fuel consumption, and people population use the oxygen. But for the tropical and water fire, cost a lot of oxygen too. So that's for in the future. In the future, so for the RCP-85 case, that's the cost of 120 gigaton each year. But for fossil fuel combustion account for the 60 to 80%, but for people, livestock respiration might be 10%. So this is the new production from land. So that's each year is produced 16 gigaton. The tropical account for the 60%, but for middle-aged 100% is 30%. That's very interesting. We can believe that the ocean only contribute 1.6 gigatons a year. That's 10% only. That's only mostly from the tropical region, but for high latitude, that's intake the oxygen from the atmosphere. So for summary, the fuel fuel combustion accounts 6 to 8%, but for current that's around 39 gigaton each year. But the land only produce 16, but for ocean only 1.6 gigaton. So this is the global budget. We can see here, so that's this first picture for estimate the oxygen budget in the world. So we can see that because 39% each year, but for the terrestrial and the marine only produce 17 gigaton each year. So we have a decline of 21 gigaton per year so far. But by end of this century, that's maybe increase to 100 gigaton each year. That's this one for the fossil fuels for the RCP 85, the case for the increase. For this green for production. So we can see the production is a slow increase, but by end of this year for 100 gigaton. So if we do not take any action, that means after 1,000 years, with all the people in the danger, because the critical percent is 95%. If the oxygen level below the 95%, all people alive in the dangers will damage the health. But right now we have only 20.8%. And this one shows the oxygen projection in the future for the ICP 8.5. So that's slowly increased because the CO2 increased the fertilization for the vegetation, but not too fast. And this one, this shows for some East Asia increase for some region. And this one for ocean. This ocean will increase too. That's 2.3 gigaton each year. However, the ocean increased the oxygen not because the increased capacity of marine produce. Actually, the NPP is going down for this region. It's very dangerous. That's the ocean's oxygen pushed to atmosphere, but the ocean step loss to produce oxygen. So a lot of diet zone will be in the ocean. So many people like ocean trash and a lot of things damage the ocean to produce the oxygen. So the summary. And so about view of Earth as a living body, we propose a concept of Earth Council to evaluate the health state of land. Actually, similar with the ocean, with deforestation and so actually this picture, that's the definition of Earth cancer. We can see the cancerous land, that's emission of CO2, cost a lot of water, cost of they have the warming hot, much hotter than the Paris land. Actually, during last 100 years, the temperature increased around 1 degree, but that's for dry land contributes more than 50%. The dry land, average dry land, double than average. That means for global warming, most temperature increase in the dry land, all the cancerous land in the dry land, and also the super city, because the super city also have not any capacity to produce oxygen. This for this Harris land produce some oxygen, but not too much. So we actually cost the oxygen that's produced for billion years, last billion years, the oxygen in the atmosphere. So we propose the cancerous land that include oxygen consumption, oxygen production, the temperature warming, and the aridity index. That's the cancerous land. Here there's this global distribution. We can see here sort of around the gas and the desert and some that's dry and extend. So far, we only have 32% health land. This is not for stimulation, that's calculated by the observation. This is for the stimulation for the ICP 8.5 and ICP 4.5. We can see for ICP, that's cancer land increase, the health land going down. But if we do something like ICP 4.5, this the situation of health land will change a lot. This is the distribution for this beginning of the cancer line as for the end of 20th century. For 20th century, we only have 23% the land as health. However, so I didn't remove the sea level price. At the end of the century, some city, some land already that's that's the sea level, that's something without some land. So actually, the health land, what I mean is the much less than this one, 20%. So let's say the biodiversity reduction due to the cancer land. This is for observation calculation. The contribution of that land and the cancer land to the rate of bird species is over 85%. That means most bird we lost in the cancerous land. And for the mammal, that's around 80% mammal lost in dead land or cancerous land. This for the SCP scenario. The cancer land contributes around 30% of total species extinction at the end of the century. That's no surprise because in the cancerous land, we do not have water, we do not have oxygen, so the people cannot survive in the cancerous land. So that means we need to take care of the oxygen, we need to take care of the dry land. It's the summary discussion. So although the current decline in oxygen has not yet caused significant threat to human health, but this change will finally threaten the survival of life. Like the last species extinction. After that's coming will be, the next one will be 60 extinction. If we not do anything, that's only 1,000 years. That's not so far. 1,000 years people will disappear in the Earth. And the Earth's cancer started dryland with vast amount of oxygen production, and urban city and industry with the highest amount of oxygen consumption. So that's also very dangerous. So this part we also suggest we take a response. And at least we should start to monitor oxygen change in a global area. Thank you.
Okay, so let's thank all the speakers again, and also speakers, will you please come up here for a panel discussion? I think we've got a very good panel here, which touch on somewhat different topics, very much related.
enough water, so why should we save water? I would like you to comment a bit on this aspect in terms of, I mean, every water that we get from a reservoir needs to be treated and undergoes like quite a couple of, just to be imported and to be made usable for the consumer. So on this idea of how much energy does go into that, and should the public probably become more aware of that, or how can we make the public more aware of this kind of aspect of, even if we have enough water, it consumes quite some energy or resources in order to make it usable. And the second thing is, I think it's from the, Joseph has been mentioning that the people, you educate people on the water consumption. It's like, what is the biggest consumption aspect that people have? Do we shower too long? Do we leave the tap running? Do we wash our clothes too much? And what exactly are you educating people on? And how come that despite this education, people still seem to increase water consumption?
Okay, so we'll let Frederick answer the question.
Yeah, let me go to one slide.
So actually, I do also have a very good question for Frederick. So you show us the declining demand, but you didn't show us the change in the supply. So there's no change in the supply, only a decline in the demand.
Well, the problem is that we have more than water.
Yeah, okay.
The problem is that we have more than enough water. Yeah, I can show you the supply. This is supply. Now this is the basically the local. You know what? Let me answer your question first. Yeah, this is the cumulative. Okay, this is the local yield. Okay, and this is imported water, and this is seawater flushing. So this is like total, basically total supply here. And I think Joseph in his presentation already basically give you an idea. Seawater is about like 22%. Yeah, and that local yield was 27% in 2017. Yeah, I have figured, in this figure it's like 2016. Yeah, and then the local yield, right? Now, to answer one question, that so this gives you an idea, right? So in terms of total, so this all come together about like 1.2 billion cubic meter per year. And this is the cumulative reservoir capacity, this blue line here. So this is Puffercoff, this is High Island. Yeah. So with this two big reservoir, which account for like 87% of total storage capacity in Hong Kong. And then we have this like these two big reservoirs, right? So what's going on is that we have these two big reservoirs. Puffercoff, they account for about 40% of total storage capacity, and High Island, 47%. Yeah. The thing is that when people think about Hong Kong's water conservation problem, then Hong Kong think of, well, we have these like three reservoirs. Okay, these three reservoirs combined would equal the storage capacity at 90%. So people's attention in Hong Kong was much directed at the three reservoirs here. They may not whether or not we have sufficient water. But then people forgot, okay? The water that goes into these three reservoirs, particularly this one, yeah, and also, you know the High Island, okay? Actually, water from what? From this river, okay? They're not rainwater. Now, we don't, I was trying to get the exact proportion, okay? Between the water going into between rainwater and this river. So we're really concerned about water security in Hong Kong. Our attention should be directed at, okay, Hong Kong, right? Should be directed at this reservoir in Lung Province, Singfengzhang Reservoir, and also Feng Shui Reservoir and Artificial Reservoir. Our concern, Hong Kong's concern in regard to water security, water sustainability, should be this three reservoir. And that's one more argument why I said earlier that we need to have like a river-based perspective, even a national perspective. Because there's national policy in regard to water use. And I think we need to be aware of that national policy in regard to how water resources should be utilized. And then because those policies will impinge upon water availability in these three reservoirs, which Hong Kong relies on. Okay, so when you look at this, I show you, right? Basically, if all the water, all the rainwater goes into reservoir, you still need to fill up reservoirs. Okay, a lot of reservoir capacity in Hong Kong actually fill up with this river water. Yeah, Second, I was talking to Ruby before we started, and for people in Hong Kong, okay, because of this import of water from the East River, people in Hong Kong, okay, as a city, as an economy, is insulated from any drought impacts. No one in Hong Kong that I've talked to, okay, realized that in 2001 there was a dry year, pretty dry, okay, when you look at it, okay, in terms of local rainfall, okay. But no one was sort of like aware that there was a drought, okay, because it's basically business as usual as far as consumption is concerned, and no one really talks about it, okay. It's not reported in the news, and no one, on a day-to-day basis, okay. So in a way, I mean, to answer your question, I'm sorry, I don't have your name. To answer your question, right? Your first question is actually one of communication, right? Risk communication. Right? And so, to answer the question, we have to understand people's attitude toward water conservation, okay, water use. In the last 2 years, I have conducted a public attitude survey, basically asking that kind of questions, asking people in Hong Kong whether or not, okay, they are aware of the importance of water conservation. And also ask them whether or not they're willing to pay a bit more, okay, so that they can conserve water. Basically, it's a willingness to pay kind of a study on how much people are willing to pay to install water efficient appliances, okay, in the household. And we lack that kind of data. Okay, so started about 2 years ago. We have at Hong Kong U conducted a public attitude survey on water consumption and also the attitudes toward water tariff reform. And then since last year, to make sense of the data in Hong Kong, we also cover Macau and also Guangzhou. And in the next 2 months, we're going to do 5 cities: Hong Kong, Macau, Guangzhou, Shenzhen, and Beijing. The assumption is that people in northern China, basically it's water short area, right? It's dry. Okay. The attitudes should be very different from the attitudes here in southern China. So we'll wait for the results to come and see whether or not that's true. I forgot your second question.
The second question was on the water consumption. Like, what is it that Hong Kong people use in water excessively if you look at their residential use?
Okay, I can answer that question a little bit, and then Joseph can stop with my idea.
So
right now,
education not be successful in that area to make people really conserve the water?
Yeah, right now we do not have scientific figures on the composition of household water use. There are numbers in Singapore, Taiwan, Germany, and I think a city in the UK. But we do not have that kind of information in Hong Kong in regard to how people use water within a household. So we are actually proposing a study in cooperation with Water Supply Department to find out the composition of household water use. I'll stop here. Maybe Joseph.
Thanks, Frederick. From the overseas experience, we know that as far as the domestic use of the water is concerned, shower plays a prominent part of the water consumption. And your question is that about the water conservation efforts, right? I think is the water conservation. The water supply, the government has been doing quite a lot of work on this front since the years of 2000 and 2009. But as Frederick has pointed out, that the per capita consumption is more or less the same in the past decades. I think the major problem is that as far as the growth of Naimi is concerned, it is very difficult to change your habit. And there is an old saying, in Chinese old saying that 學好一日，sorry 學壞，學好就10年啦。So you need time to change your habit, and that's why we have been spending quite a lot considerable efforts in educating the young generation, and we have developed the education kits for the kindergartens and primary schools and that. And And we hope that we, at the very early age, they can have the water station concept in mind. And when they grow up, they will conserve the water in their daily life. And at the same time, we hope that because the family science is that children can influence back to their parents on the water conservation habit.
So I got one question actually following up on this figure that you showed. So in this figure here, so this change in the local yield is probably due to a deficit in precipitation, right? But the larger vulnerability will be in this portion of the supply. So has there been any vulnerability study to look at in the future whether that part of the problem could potentially be getting worse, for example, due to drought or something like that?
We have colleagues in civil engineering looking at climate change scenarios using AR5 figures. I mean, IPCC AR5 figures. They look at the next like 50 to 80 years. Basically, they have arrived at the conclusion that in the region, we are going to have more rain, not less. Yeah, southern China, I mean, particularly the East River Basin. Yeah. So the threat is flood, not drought. I mean, in terms of probability.
It was a point to the consumption and changing habits and something in Hong Kong. Globally, water is underpriced. It's very cheap. And in Hong Kong, we haven't had a rise in water price in 20-ish years. So, if it's cheap and it's not going up, that doesn't help with, So it's just an issue, I think, there also with the habit of using more and stuff because it doesn't come at a cost. So,
So I saw
actually, I think of this just now. Actually, it's in the prices of other utilities like electricity, for example. And I also think that people here don't really concern about whether we have a water shortage problem, at least in the past few years. But the extreme drought event during May this year probably generate some discussions or raise some concerns. Suddenly we all have some concern about whether we have enough water to sustain our daily life. And in that 2 weeks, I know that is kind of a risk, but at the same time it's an opportunity, I would say, to raise the awareness of people to conserve water and think about whether Gongjiang River can still provide enough water for our consumption. Because I think we do have a few reservoirs in Hong Kong. I don't think it can cover the consumption for Hong Kong, right? I have to still quite rely on the supply from Nottingham. So, but sometimes I also feel interesting point that a few years ago we have quite enough water, even because of rainfall. But then Nottingham still provides and then we have to just flush out all the excessive amount of water to the sea, which I think is a bit of waste.
I think that episode you're referring to, right, in late May this year, yeah, and it was reported in the news media, okay, for like several days, yeah. Photo of this, right, dry reservoir, yeah, and that's an irrigation reservoir. It's not in use anyway. Not many people are using water from the irrigation reservoir, yeah. So the impact on water supply is nil, yeah. But doesn't mean that we are not taking, we should not be concerned with this, okay? I think we need to look at this from a proper perspective. But that is the location of that reservoir, in Northern New Territories, yeah. And basically, Hong Kong, I think, is less than 3.1% of the GDP is on like agriculture, yeah. So there are not that many like full-time farmers relying on the irrigation reservoir for water, yeah. I think my answer to the question is that considered as a drought? Not according to Hong Kong Observatory data. So this is not a dry year. In fact, right, it's a lot of rain. Yeah.
Would it be considered as an extreme event?
No, not yet. Yeah, extreme events defined by like two, what do you call that? normal distribution, you have
Standard
standard deviation. Okay, so basically like outside 2 standard deviation. Okay, basically 5% chance. Yeah. So not this year. Definitely this year is not extreme.
No.
Not at all. Yeah.
According to the observatory, this year is the normal year.
It doesn't rainfall.
Yeah, it doesn't.
So that is only like one. I don't know how to describe it. One episode. Yeah.
So I have one question for Professor Wang. So you brought up a very interesting problem about the decline of oxygen level. So the mitigation for that, would it be comparable to the mitigation of carbon? Because if you cut down on the use of fossil energy and things like that, you would also automatically reduce the decline of oxygen. So do you think that we need other strategies to deal with oxygen, or would it be similar strategy that you would deal with carbon?
Yeah, similar strategy to dealing with carbon, because if we cut down the carbon emission, then can significantly improve the oxygen decline. It's counted 60 to 80%. But I'm trying to say is we might be needing monitoring the oxygen decline because there are some other reasons to consumption of oxygen.
All right, thank you. Any other questions from the panel?
You just, we always talk about the price of water in Hong Kong, and I think people know that the price of water compared to other major cities is extraordinarily cheap in Hong Kong. The reason that we haven't put up our water price for a long time is entirely political. The other thing to also bear in mind is that our energy price is also comparatively cheap. The two comparisons are interesting because, of course, the Water Supplies Department is a government department, and the provision of electricity in Hong Kong is private sector, but regulated through schemes of control. For example, in energy prices, there is great effort on the part of the regulation to keep prices down. With water, there is a sense in government that because the government is rich, politically, it is almost impossible to raise the price of water through the Legislative Council. So there is no discussion about using price as a mechanism to regulate usage. Politically, I think the government just does not want to deal with that issue because it becomes another political fight about whether low-income people would carry a bigger burden. So it's entirely divorced from a discussion about use of a valuable resource. So I think as far as this particular group is concerned, it will be interesting how you might want to address this point. I think for many of us who've worked in environmental issues for a long time, we always think it's important to put a general message somewhere. That we understand that it's a political issue, not that we don't want to raise water price. And I think if you ask people in the Water Supplies Department whether they would like to raise price, I think the answer is yes. But they're probably told, don't go there, because it will lead to a major political bun fight. But I think it is important for any gathering to probably make the point that we are not using price to regulate usage. Can I add on to that? Why is it so difficult to do so? It's like, why don't we just give subsidies for the lower income groups in terms of water and electricity, as like, for example, people in public housing or people in certain housing units, and charge the others? So isn't that possible? It sounds like it would be. I don't know. I would like to be very interested in like, why is it so difficult for the government to do that? And there should be measures, right?
Thanks, Christine, and for the questions. The water price. I think on and off the government or the water supplies department has reviewed the water price structure, and we did put up a proposal to the Legislative Council for raising the long livelihood charges, just like the connection fees and things like that in the past. And actually, in the past we did, and we did put up a proposal for discussion in the Legislative Council. As far as the water charges is concerned, because you've been working in the government, and you know that the current structure is the water charges is sponsored by the rent. We from time to time we did review the pricing structure of that, but before we put up a proposal to raise the water charges to recover the cost for that, we need to take into consideration a host of factors, just including the livelihood of the lower-income people. Yes.
Whenever you talk about reforming the water tariff, I think many people ask the question, what about impact on the low-income population, right? That's natural, yeah. The fact is that there is actually subsidies given to low-income population, both in population that are receiving the comprehensive assistance, meaning those are on welfare, and those who are not on welfare, they're also getting subsidies through a private the other assistance scheme. Okay, basically, low-income population are shielded, okay, from any increase in water price, increases in water tariff. So that's not an issue. Okay, it's not as important as the other one, which is accountability. Yeah. Now, Christine just told you the reason why the water tariff have been frozen, okay, since 1995-96, meaning the financial year 95-96. Yeah, so it's been 22 years. What does it mean that the cost of production has gone up, and people are still paying the same price that they paid like 22 years ago? Okay, so basically we talk about like production cost, $11, 10. Yeah, for local year about $1,100 per cubic meter, and people on average are paying like maybe $5, $6. Okay, half. Okay, the other half are subsidized by taxpayers. Yeah, so it's definitely not. There's no incentive, right, for people to use less water. Okay, so the logical conclusion is that when you need to raise price, okay, the World Bank recommendation is that people should pay 150% of the cost of production. Meaning, well, that you need some money to invest in the system, right, to upgrade the system, yeah. So here in Hong Kong, we're paying 50% of cost, okay. So World Bank is recommending 150. UN agencies 120, yeah. So definitely we have a big gap, okay. Then the questions are, one, okay, one is that you have this political opposition, okay, or in fact, I tried to go back, okay, into all these proceedings in Legislative Council in 1995-96. I saw several names, okay, but I could not find the reasons, okay, for supporting that opposition to the, because well, since before 1996, 95-96, okay, the tariffs were actually reviewed on an annual basis. Okay, that's a committee, and the committee is still there. Okay, the committee looked at what the tariff, and then make recommendations on how tariff levels, okay, should be raised. Okay, so what we have is that we have a 4-tier tariff regime. Okay, which makes a lot of sense. If you use more, then you have to pay a higher rate. Okay, basically the 4th tier is the what we call the penalty rate. Okay, you have to pay like 40% more. Okay, than the cost of production to discourage people from using more water. Okay, so there's nothing wrong with the tariff regime. Okay, as far as the design is concerned, it's the level of tariff. Okay, that's been frozen. Okay, since 1995-96. I can add one comment, and that is the tariff regime was designed with a 3.9 household size in mind. Okay, right now our average household size is 2.9. So basically that has to be redefined, okay, because our household size has declined. Yeah. But when you look at the question, okay, the question is what is standing in the way of reforming, or not so much reforming, in terms of raising the word tariff, political. Okay, if I'm a politician, okay, in the electoral council, my first question, okay, if water supply department like Joseph comes into water electoral council, right? I'll talk to Joseph, okay, have you cleaned up your act, okay, in water supply department in terms of what leakage? So much water to leak, okay, in the system, okay, in both the main government pipes, in the government mains, okay, and also in the private premises, okay. Right now is 25 plus 4, it's like 30%, okay, but in the year 2000, okay, government mains is 25%, okay, private premises 15%. You talk about a 40% leakage rate, 40%, okay, that is pretty bad, okay. I mean, Singapore is single digit, okay, Tokyo is single digit. So basically we're talking about London, okay, London is what, 25, okay. I mean, they like to use London as a comparison, yeah. So what but right now, okay, right now it's about 30%, say 15% government mains, and then 15% in private premises. So not until, okay, this leakage rate is brought down to a single digit, legislators are going to question, okay, why should we, okay, approve your request, okay, the increased rate when you meaning the agency, okay, is not doing a good job in terms of bringing down this leakage rate to a reasonable level. Yeah, I'm putting you in a difficult position. Yeah, so it's a question of accountability. Okay, so not until the operation efficiency of the water agency has improved, it's very difficult to see legislators supporting, okay, any request to increase the tariff level. That's one. Right? Second, I think it goes back to the question about communication. Yeah. No, I think we need to do a better job in terms of communicating the value of water to the users. Right now, it's very much taken for granted. Of course, there's water. There's a lot more water than we need. Okay, so why should we conserve water? Okay, so in addition to monetary measures, I think we also need to look at non-monetary measures. Okay, basically this message. Okay, that water is a valuable resource. Now that is where the national framework comes into play. Okay, or coming into play. Okay, I mean, before you came in, I was making an argument that Hong Kong's water policy would have to be linked with the national policy on ecological civilization, meaning that water is a very important, okay, natural resource. Okay, and Hong Kong should make a contribution to this national agenda on ecological civilization construction. Okay, how we conserve water, how we're going to reduce use of water, will make a significant contribution to upstream. Okay, basically upstream ecosystem. Okay, in the East River basin, where we're drawing 80% of fresh water. So not until we make that connection, people are not going to be convinced that why we should, because we have a lot of water. Okay, so 2011, no one realized Hong Kong has what was a dry year. That was a drought. Okay, but basically Hong Kong people are insulated from the impact of drought, and I can see that it's going to happen. It's going to continue in the next like 20, 30 years. So we need to do a better job in terms of communicating, okay, to the users or to the community that water is a precious resource. So we need to find a very good communication strategy to do that. One way to do that is to redesign the water bill. Right now the water bill is very boring. Right? You look at the water bill and you only and of course the money is so you go to Starbucks, okay, you buy a latte, right? Like what, $40, $50? That's 1 month water bill that you're paying, okay, on average. Well, people in Hong Kong are paying $50 per month per household for water use. Even if you increase by 100%, okay, it's another cup of coffee, okay? People are not going to be concerned, okay? So I wouldn't put a lot of weight on the monetary measure. I'll put a lot more weight on the non-monetary measure, okay, to encourage people to use less water, conserve water.
I asked you to frame it, right? It's really important how you frame it,
as to how government and the public will digest it, I think nationally there are some really good policies that have emerged from China as a whole. So ecological civilization, water basin management, some of these new things that have come. Hong Kong and Macau are still disconnected with those policies. So it would be great if part of the outcome of this group is to try and make those connections for government and for the public to consider. I mean, what you've just articulated.
Well, I think there's some evidence to what I've just said. Okay, I told you that since 2 years ago we have conducted okay public attitude survey on water use, water consumption, water conservation. Yeah, and last year I also conducted a study in Guangzhou so that we can compare Hong Kong data with Guangzhou data. Yeah, and also Macau data. Yeah. Now, Macanese are very concerned with water conservation. Okay, I think they've done a much better job. Their consumption, per capita consumption, 150. Hong Kong is 220, official figure. Now, Guangzhou, okay, according to the survey findings, people in Guangzhou have a higher degree of sense of the need to conserve water. Okay, I mean, we convert the findings into, yeah. So it, as an indicator, okay, so people in Guangzhou have a higher degree of concern about water conservation than people in Hong Kong. Or put it the other way, Hong Kong people are less concerned with water conservation than people in Macau and in Guangzhou. So it tells, yeah, so that I mean the data tells us that we have a job to do in terms of raising people's awareness of the importance of water conservation. So the monetary method, okay, I think it's at that end, yeah. So we need to look at non-monetary measures. Yeah.
So I think we passed the time. We're supposed to end at 10:50, but if there are any, maybe one more burning question that anyone has?
I think that Dawn has something to say.
Yes.
Okay, thanks. It was just to go next step from Fred on, just the monetary aspect isn't going to work by raising prices. I mentioned that before. We have to think also beyond just water use. You mentioned we need the water energy nexus. We need water to make energy. So we need to also educate people in that water is such an important part of our life, not just what comes out of the tap. And maybe in Guangzhou, the reason they're so much more aware of conserving water is a lot of the policies and what they're hearing in the news and what they're being told by regulations. They're being told signs that in your personal life, you need to save water. But a lot of business owners, they have water permits. So you have to get a water permit for your business. So it's really replacing and rethinking water as a whole. Like it's not just one resource. It goes into all of it. It goes into feeding our economy, our food, and everything like that. And I think Hong Kong, with the 3% agriculture contribution to our GDP, we just don't understand the water footprint. And that's why we try to talk a little bit in, the bathtub waternomics to make you understand one latte is 3 bathtubs of water. We just don't think about it. So even that one coffee that you're buying to pay for your water, it's already using just 3 bathtubs for the milk, for the cow, for everything. So it's just rethinking water. It's not just what comes out the tap.
All right. Thank you very much. Yeah, let's thank our. So I think the plan is to come back at 11:10 for the next session. Yeah. So we have a 10-minute. Or do you want to give a little bit more time for the break?
15 minutes.
15 minutes. Yeah. So let's come back at 11:15 for the next session. Thank you.
Yeah, so press back and forth I don't know why this company is
far that is a concept for governments, as an institution. I mean, of course, I know it's global and everything, but at Asia or Singapore, or you can say like put out some efforts for yeah. So I'm wondering, are there strategies how far is it like
Thank you for your
Looking at products, right? You put a number, where is the
Make sure. So everyone, sorry to interrupt you from your nice conversations. I think we should start our session 4, last session. So I will hand it over to Winston. He will be our moderator.
Thanks, Yomi. All right, welcome back, everyone. We will be starting very soon. Once I see you got the speakers already. Okay, in this session, in this final session for the workshops, we will be looking at two issues, two very important issues. The previous one looked at water, but now we're switching tack and looking at issues of heat in urban areas. And we've got three very distinguished experts who will be presenting some of their work over the next hopefully 35 to 40 minutes or so. And then, as usual, after that, we'll have a pretty prolonged and hopefully productive question and answer session. So the first speaker is Prof. Redesign from Sun Yat-sen University, and she'll be talking about heat waves over East Asia and how they relate to ENSO. All yours.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. I'm Redesign from Sun Yat-sen University. It's my pleasure to give a talk here. But I'm afraid my talk will be a little bit different because I will touch some details, but I will skip the details as soon as possible. Yeah, I believe we all agree that the threat of heat wave will increase in the future. So it is important to improve the understanding and the predictability. My talk will focus on the sea surface temperature, which is the main external forcing for the atmosphere and can work as predictors. The title is Potential Predictors for the Heat Wave over East Asia during summers without obvious ENSO-related signals. Under the background of global warming, the surface air temperature obviously increased and leads to more frequent heat wave. The occurrence of heat wave greatly impact the society and the human health. It is striking that the mortality due to heat wave has dramatically increased by 2,300% in the first decade of the 21st century. Remarkably larger than the increasing rate of the average of other meteorological disasters, which is only 20%. The mortality related to heat wave has exceeded the sum of all the other disasters. Therefore, it is important to improve the understanding of its causes and the predictability. I will explore this question based on the recent 2 hot summers. Let's review the recent 2 hot summers. I'm sorry this picture is in Chinese, but you can just focus on these red shading areas, which denotes the areas affected by heat wave. In the July of 2018, heat wave occurred over Western Europe, East Asia, and North America, causing at least hundreds of deaths and about 24,000 heat stroke patients in Japan alone. And 2017 is recorded as the warmest year without ENSO. In the July of 2017, heat wave occurred over Western Europe, East Asia, and Western USA, also causing numerous deaths. So, are these hot summers easy to predict? One of my friends who works in the meteorological bureau said to me, yes, of course, because the summer temperature is definitely to be anomalously warm because of the global warming. So no matter what, we just focus it to be a warm summer. But what he is talking about is the warming trend, whether a specific year, like a peak, is related to the natural variability, which is much more difficult to predict. And one of the main sources of natural variability is the sea surface temperature. And ENSO is considered as the leading mode of the natural variability in the sea surface temperature over the tropical region, and is considered as the main predictor. Here is the picture of the warm phase of ENSO, which is called El Nino, and has these three key regions influencing the summer climate over East Asia. But ENSO cannot explain everything, such as the 2017. So a question is raised. Is there any other predictors when ENSO is not prominent? The hot summers in the recent 2 years provide possible answers. Let's look at the 2017 hot summer first. In the summer of 2017, severe heat wave occurred over central and south China. The atmosphere circulation directly lead to this heat wave is an anomalous high pressure, which is related to the intensification and westernward extension of the subtropical high. So it is high pressure leads to high temperature, because the high pressure will lead to less cloud cover, more solar radiation to the surface, and thus increase the air temperature. Then, how does this high pressure come into being? We need to check the sea surface temperature to detect the external forcing. Here is the sea surface temperature anomaly in the preceding winter and the summer of 2017. The ENSO pattern is also put here for comparison. We can see in this year, the surface temperature anomaly over the Eastern Pacific is very weak. So it is a non-ENSO year. And, but the Western Pacific is anomalously warm. And we found that the Western tropical Pacific can trigger a local meridional circulation and favors the high pressure in the north. We also use climate model to track this mechanism. And moreover, the surface temperature over the Western tropical Pacific is continuous, and so can serve as a predictor. The global warming may enhance the warming effect of the Western tropical Pacific, because the warm extremes are favored by this increasing trend. Then let's move to another story, the hot summer in 2018. In this year, the heat wave occurred over Northeast Asia, and it is also related to a high pressure here, similar to 2017. Again, we check the sea surface temperature to detect the external forcing. This black line denotes the surface temperature over the Eastern Pacific, this key region. Although it is anomalous cold in the preceding winter, indicating a La Nina mode, but in the summer, the surface temperature over these three key regions are all very weak. So maybe some other region may play an important role. We found that the cooling over the southeastern tropical Indian Ocean is important through modulating the cross-equatorial flow and a meridional circulation. And this cooling over the southeastern tropical Indian Ocean is continuous. And I also checked its time series and found it is the second coolest in the history since the 1980s. So it is worth mentioning that despite the background of global warming, the cold signal over the tropical ocean may still be very important. So that's all about the case studies about the 2 hot summers. Finally, I give a brief summary. ENSO is traditionally regarded as the main predictor for the East Asian summer monsoon, and with these 3 key regions. But when the ENSO-related signal is weak, other predictors should be proposed. And for the 2017 hot summer, we found that the tropical Western Pacific is important. For the 2018 summer, we found that the southeastern tropical Indian Ocean is important. So we propose that these sea surface temperature anomalies, besides the ENSO-related region, should be taken into consideration for better predictability of the East Asian summer climate. That's all about my talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Chen. Okay, our next speaker is Prof. Chao-Ren from Hong Kong University's Department of Architecture. And she'll be talking about the overheating cities and adaptations.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Chao-Ren from the University of Hong Kong Faculty of Architecture. So I guess you're very surprised why an architect or planner quite interested about the climate and also especially this kind of extreme hot weather situation. So Hong Kong, we are facing such kind of extreme hot weather situation, and this is the background picture showing that for the common sense, we saw we need more this kind of air conditioners installed outside the building facade. But this is a real solution, adaptation for us. So I hope through today's presentation we can have more thoughts about this. And the previous session, there's a speaker talk about the drought problem in Hong Kong. This year we have such kind of 16 days consecutive situation of prolonged extreme hot weather situation. During the same period, if you refer to the poor family who live in the subdivided unit in Hong Kong, they have such kind of problem. So the same news article from the South China Morning Post report this. So pay attention to the details. According to the NGO's report, they found that 80% of such unit was higher than the outside. In some cases, can reach as much as 5 degrees. So just imagine Hong Kong, when we talk about extreme hot weather situation, it's talk about more than 33 degrees Celsius for the maximum temperature. For this case, they can reach to the 42 degrees Celsius indoor. In the meantime, the poor people, because they cannot afford air conditioners, so the indoor, there's the poor family. The mother said she has to shower 3 times for her daughter at night, and the whole family had to escape from their home as long as possible until the night, the midnight. Okay, so from this news, there are several messages given us. The first one is how to understand the built environment in Hong Kong and such kind of extreme hot weather, and how to identify those vulnerable populations, provide a strategy and policy to help them. So I hope through my presentation we can think about these questions. So I know some people from overseas, from mainland China, you're probably not familiar with Hong Kong situation. Behind these news articles, we need to understand in Hong Kong, about 0.1 million people live in the subdivided unit. What is subdivided unit? So normally we have this kind of old building. Per floor we have 2 apartments. But because we don't have enough housing to provide to the poor people, so the poor people live in this kind of subdivided unit. So 2 apartments can be divided into the 8 units. And some units like this, they don't have window. So natural cross ventilation is impossible for them. And so you can see they have the fence. And this is a statistic from the Census Statistics Department in Hong Kong. We still have this kind of living condition for poor people. In the meantime, we still have about 0.1 1 million people live in a caged home. So you can see this. And apart from that, Hong Kong facing the aging society, and according to the data set from the 2015 to 2064, for the elderly people above the age 65 will raise to almost to 2.5 million population. And among the elderly people, another problem is 1/3 elderly people actually are poor people. So can you imagine how can they afford extra electricity bills for them under the extreme hot weather? And this is one of the TV programs show that in Hong Kong we are not only facing aging society problem, we're also facing the aging poverty problem. And if you see this kind of indoor situations, actually the old couple live in the public housing, and they have very small window, the natural ventilation is also impossible for them. So apart from that, actually for our teams, we work with the planning department since 2003 to help them conduct a lot of this kind of environmental consultancy project relevant to the urban climate, and try to incorporate this kind of understanding knowledge into our local planning and design. And one of our projects is called Urban Climatic Maps and Standards for Wind Environment. So we work with the government to try to understand what is Hong Kong urban climate situations. And when we do this, we incorporate the built environment understanding. And so that is why we create a map to help them to identify the hotspot areas in Hong Kong, and also link this with their planning and design policies. And apart from that, we also work with public health researchers, because we want to understand what is the impact on the public health side. And if you read some literature from the public health, you know that they will do this kind of statistic models, but most of the study actually lack of understanding about urban heat island effect of built environment. So we work together with this. And based on the understanding from urban climate map, we extract the evaluation about urban heat island intensity and map out this kind of spatial information in Hong Kong for the different district. And here you can see the different unit is a territorial planning unit. So because this is a census department, they extract the data at this level, TPU level. And based on this, we published a paper in 2012, which is try to understand, okay, in Hong Kong, in summer situation, when temperature rise above certain degree, what is the impact on the public health? So we found that in Hong Kong, actually, when temperature above the 28 degrees Celsius, and the increase in mortality, when temperature rise per 1 degree Celsius, then it will associate about 1.5% percentage of heat-related mortality. And if you put into Asia, you know that Moscow, their response temperature is about 18 degrees Celsius, and for Bangkok is about 29. This is also relevant to the background climate conditions, so people adopt the heat or the summer environment. But just imagine, if you are policymakers, if you're mayor, if you got this message, it's quite scary. We know that people will die because of the extreme hot weather situation, but what they can do. So that is why, based on this study, we continue our pursuit. So we want to understand in Hong Kong and the different kind of extreme hot weather types. So not only the temperature rise. In Hong Kong, we're talking about 3 consecutive very hot days, 2 consecutive hot days. What is the different types of this kind of extreme hot weather's impact? So we continued our pursuit. And in this, we found that actually the high risk and the nighttime, especially this kind of prolonged heat situations, can be observed. And also reduce the risk if there is no continuous, which just means a hot night is also very important, and very often people just neglect it. And apart from that, we also found that there's a significant short-term effect of such kind of prolonged heat events. Because in Hong Kong right now, we only have 2 indicators to issue the extreme hot weather situations. One is very hot day, the other one is very hot night. But we don't have a heat wave definition for our local situation. And so that is why we continue our effort and try to get a spatial and temporal understanding about hot summer situation. For these studies, we use a co-creating method, but in the meantime, more important, we consider our built environment, including the building information, the elevation, because you know in Hong Kong, the 70% areas is very hilly, so we must consider elevation situation, and also the greenery information. So probably some of you, it's the first time for you come to Hong Kong. From the pictures, from the website, you always think Hong Kong is a high-density city full of the buildings, concrete jungles. But actually, in Hong Kong, 60% area covered by the trees, greeneries, and also belong to the country park. So that is why we still need to consider this kind of vegetation situation. And so once we do this co-creating method, interpolation method, we can get hourly the temperature distribution map of Hong Kong over the summertime. And through this, we can understand how the different districts in Hong Kong can be cooled down or heat up. So this is a situation. But more important or interesting for us is once we detect those hotspot areas in the summer night situation, we find out that almost all the downtown areas cannot be cooled down. This is just a normal, under normal summer situations. And so behind this, you can understand that the impact of built environment on the summer environment. This is really important. So after we finished this pilot study, one day we got a call from the correctional institution, prison. Why? Apart from the poor people, the prisoner also, they don't have any air conditioning in the prison. So the policymakers, the governor of the correctional institution quite worried about the heat stress situation for prisoners. So they call us, they want to us help them to check whether prison or this kind of facility, whether they have the health impact under extreme hot weather. So we, for this study, we map out those sensitive populations and people, including the prisoner, and also the young people, the elderly people. So you can see we check the different facilities like the prison, rehabilitation center, school, hospital, the services for elderly, public housing estate. And for the odd times and also daytime is not a problem, but the problem is nighttime. Almost all kinds of facilities, they have issues, this kind of health risk during the nighttime. And I guess yesterday, the staff from the colleague from the Hong Kong Observatory already tell you what is the future situation for this kind of extreme hot weather situation. And so in the past, we know that in good old days, Hong Kong still have some cold days, but in future we will have less, probably we don't have any winter in Hong Kong. But in future, we will have more hot nights and also very hot days. And the increasing trend of hot nights will be faster than very hot days. So that means probably in future, in the summer situation in Hong Kong, everyone have to turn on the air conditioning every day, every night. And now we need to review what is local policy, what is local action, how they consider this kind of hot night situations. But unfortunately, we only found that from Labor Department, they talk about the risk assessment of the prevention heat stroke at work. And for the Center for Health Protection, they only have a newsletter to tell people to be aware of the heat illnesses. So you can see that we really need to do something from the policy, from local actions to deal with such kind of situation. And so that is why since 2016, we try to build up such kind of warning system by following this national guideline from the World Meteorological Organization and also World Health Organization. They talk about heat health and heat waves and health, a guidance on the heat warning system development. For the whole system, actually, we need to consider 4 aspect information: the weather forecast of high temperatures, and also the method for assessing how future weather patterns may evolve in terms of ranging of the health outcomes, and the determining of the heat stress threshold for action, the system of great alerts action for communications, etc. But more important, if you check the health action plan, they also highlight the active on longer strategies for reducing such kind of heat risk, especially how to through this kind of climate-sensitive building, urban design, and town planning. So you can see, as a planner and designer, we have to do something. And so that is why we want to go back to see another science, another story, talk about urban data. And so far, we have, if you check the global scale urban database, you can find that we have quite several established database. But if you check the urban, this kind of category of land use, normally they only have one, either called urban land use or the built-up land use. But within the urban areas, they cannot show you the variation in terms of land use, land cover. So that is why since 2011, we have a global initiative project, which is called the UDA, World Urban Database and Access Portal Tools. We try to get a more detailed database and describe this kind of urban morphology, building morphology for various kind of applications. So, so right now we can classify the urban areas and built-up areas into the 10 categories from, for example, like the compact high-rise. So this is a Houston, the picture. And you can see the downtown areas could be very different from the suburban or even the neighborhood areas. So if you adopt these kind of classifications, then you can more precisely describe the urban morphology. And apart from that, the different cities can make a cross comparison. And for example, Los Angeles and Accra in Nigeria. And apart from this kind of urban database, we also provide attribute tables of different properties of this kind of urban morphology indicators. So like if you are a modeler, and I know some people from the environmental division like Professor Jimmy Fong, and when they do the modeling, like the air pollution modeling, urban climate, or even climate change modeling, how can you need to more precise data to describe urban areas. So when later, when the policy action, they can do more precise response. And apart from that, since 2013, my team, we work very actively to develop this kind of urban database, especially for Chinese cities. So far, we've finished 57 our principal cities, and also major economic big regions data. And also we conduct several ongoing collaborations and applications. And so for today's talk, I'd like to share 3 key messages. One is overheating can be captured in the summer nighttime in urban areas of Hong Kong due to the compact and high-density urban context. So if other cities would like to do this kind of study, you need to get this kind of precise urban data. And apart from that, we need to improve the climate and health services to deal with such kind of extreme event. For the climate services, right now in Hong Kong, Hong Kong Observatory provide 9 days weather climate services. But when we have a communication with them, we found that we need to get a big further understanding about the impact of extreme hot weather on the public health. So like when we define the heat wave, whether this is 3 consecutive hot days or 5 consecutive hot days, this is highly relevant to their weather forecast services. And apart from that, when we develop this kind of Hong Kong early warning system, we really need to involve and synergize efforts from our local government, NGOs, and also especially the elderly care facilities to improve our public awareness. And from one of the local studies, they're showing that if the public can bear this kind of potential risk, then they can do actions. And the further this kind of heat-related mobility mortality, they will have better improvement situations. That's all. Thank you.
Thanks. Our final speaker today will be looking is Prof. Kevin Lau from CUHK. We started the beginning of this session looking at very large synoptic scale heat events. Then we moved down to citywide scales, and now we're going to zoom even to finer resolution and spatial scale. Back to you.
So good morning. I'm Kevin Lau from the Institute of Future Cities of the Chinese University of Hong Kong. So I'm going to talk about the outdoor thermal comfort because Charles has been talking about the mortality, but before mortality, we are already suffering discomfort in our urban environment especially. So we all know that the climate change will bring increasing temperature, and the urban heat island effect will add another 3 to 5 degrees in the urban area in Hong Kong. So our urban thermal environment is actually encountering a lot of challenges in terms of such an increasing temperature. So thermal discomfort in the outdoor spaces, and this actually will discourage the use of outdoor spaces by our urban inhabitants. So, so we have to look at this to improve the use of the outdoor spaces so that it has implications of health and well-being and also the energy consumption of the urban environment. So when we talk about human thermal comfort, we can look at the impact of different aspects. The first is the physical environment. So for example, the urban geometry, the urban form, how it affects the feeling, the heat exchange between the human bodies. Another one is the physiological responses of human bodies. So it depends on how our human physiological system of the human body would react to such a heat, intense heat in the urban areas. So the third aspect is the psychological one. It depends on how people would perceive the environment and how this perception would interact with different kinds of stimulus. And the fourth one is particularly important in the field of thermal comfort. It is the heat balance of human body. It depends on how the heat flow to and from the human body that are being exposed. And it is governed by a number of heat budget models, depends on which one you are going to use. And the importance of thermal comfort is on the thermal experience that could be different from different types of outdoor spaces. So therefore, we need to understand how the people would perceive the thermal environment is in these kind of spaces, so that we can understand how they would adapt to such a heat by using the facilities or using the actual physical environment. And our team has been looking at the human thermal comfort issues from different levels of spatial scales. So from the city and district scale that mentioned by Charles, the urban climate map project, and then down to the neighborhood scales, how the urban morphology, how the urban geometry would affect the thermal perception or affect the thermal environment. And the finest scale would be the individual scale, how the human body, how the pedestrian would react to or would respond to the surrounding microclimate conditions. So for the city scale, 10 years ago we started the urban climatic map projects commissioned by the planning department. And in this project, we particularly used the thermal comfort as an indicator to coordinate, collate different types of urban morphological parameters. So in this particular study, we conducted a thermal comfort survey and found that the neutral physiological equivalent temperature in Hong Kong is 28.1 degrees. So based on this understanding, you will see that to achieve these neutral conditions under typical summer conditions, because the average summer daytime temperature is about 28 degrees, and under different kind of exposure of solar radiation, we need a certain level of corresponding level of wind speed to achieve these neutral conditions. So these understanding would give helps to govern the effect of different types of urban morphological parameters. For example, the compactness of the environment, the level of greenery, and even the topography, and the proximity to the open spaces to the waterfront. So all these parameters would be governed by these understandings, so that we know how we can change, how we can excuse me, would modify the urban environment in order to achieve these these understanding. And then down to the neighborhood level, we also do numerical modeling to understand like how what is the spatial variation of the thermal environment. In this particular study, we use the mean radiant temperature as an indicator to the heat stress in the outdoor environment. So if you look at the, so this is the downtown area of Hong Kong, the southern part of the downtown area of Hong Kong, the east of Tsim Sha Tsui. So you can look at, you will see the spatial variation of the heat stress in this particular area. So from these, from the results of the numerical modeling, we can identify the areas of heat stress that in the local neighborhood. For example, the sunlit surfaces of buildings, so you will see the sunlit surfaces would have a higher level of heat stresses, and also the exposed area and the different types of, different street orientation would have corresponding level of heat stress. And in this study, we also look at the temporal variation. So you know that how the heat stress area will change in terms of the spatial pattern over, throughout the day. And in this study, we also look at the conditions under the extreme hot weather conditions. So as Chang mentioned before, we have a very hot day in Hong Kong, which is defined by the daily maximum temperature over 33 degrees. So we picked up all these conditions, all these days in the last 10 years, and to look at how the built environment would behave in terms of the heat stress under such a condition. So we can see that in the exposed area, you will see higher level of heat stress, but if we have like vegetation and shading, then the level of heat stress would decrease considerably. So this is very important to the designers, because it is important for us to create the cool spots under such overwhelming warm conditions, because in the future we will have a very high level of high air temperature, more frequent heat wave. But during this period, it is important for us to create such cool spots for the urban inhabitants to rest or to relieve from high level of heat stress. So down to the individual level, we also examine the physiological response or the perception of the pedestrian when they walk through the urban environment. So you will see that we conduct a walking study, which asks our pedestrian to walk through a compact environment and then back to the more exposed main road. So you will see there's a large variation of the thermal sensation and also the skin temperature, because skin temperature is a very important parameters to human thermal comfort, because it is the immediate response of our human body to the surrounding environmental conditions. So these are the design measures that we can use to mitigate heat stress in the urban environment. For example, the heat stress, street trees that was shown in the last few slides, and the shading devices including arcade and the use of the cool pavement materials, and also the design of the street orientation would help us to create a diversity of environment with different environmental conditions, so that we can seek for shelters or to seek for relief when under such a condition. And this is a current study that we are doing now, is to understand the psychological perception of the different environmental qualities. For example, how the visual comfort, how the perception of air quality, how the perception of acoustic comfort and even smell would affect the perception of thermal comfort. So here are some preliminary studies that we can see that like the level of visual comfort actually affects the level of thermal comfort of the respondents, and also the acoustic comfort. So this help us, they inform us that an integrated design of outdoor spaces will be needed in terms of achieving a thermal comfort level in our urban environment. So some policy implementations based on our work. The urban climatic map has been included in the Hong Kong 2030 Plus under the theme of planning livable, high-density, healthy city in Hong Kong. And also the design measures that I mentioned, including urban greenery and ventilation, has been incorporated into the sustainable building design guidelines. And also, our team has recently completed a study on the urban microclimate study for the Hong Kong Green Building Council in order to let the designers know how we can design our environment to improve the microclimate of the city. And also, the B+ neighborhood also has a section on the outdoor thermal comfort. So, thank you very much.
Thanks, Prof. Lau. At this point of time, could I invite the speakers to the front and have a nice, cozy seat in front of the bright lights? So we have a short Q&A session moderated by myself. I think we had a very good spread of issues that were covered over the three talks. Prof. Chen talked about the larger scale synoptic forcings or heat stress in East Asia, looking at potential predictors from certain large-scale teleconnections. Prof. Chen talked about the local scale, the urban scale issues, which touched upon issues of interdisciplinarity. It's not just architects that help to contribute to our understanding and knowledge and policy of urban climate, but everybody else. And that was a nice plug to the UDAP scheme, which is, I think, is a very useful scheme for modelers to help to quantify the land surface area of urban areas. And Prof. Lau talked a lot about the fine scale physiological impacts on microclimates and outdoor thermal comfort. So at this point, can I ask if there are any questions from the audience that you'd like to ask? Yes, sir.
Oh, three excellent presentations. I got a question for Dr. Ren. I got two questions. First question, you mentioned this work on heat, the monitoring, the measurement, modeling of heat, and also humidity. So in your developing the index and understanding the impact of that, do you actually combine the two, both the heat temperature and humidity in that? And I was just wondering, because here in Hong Kong, it looks like humidity is really a big issue in terms of impacting human sensation. Another question related to policy. As an architect and urban planner, what do you see the policy, where do you think the policy should be targeted on to address this issue?
Thank you for your question. The first one, for this presentation, I only show the air temperature distribution pattern, this part of analysis. Actually, in Hong Kong, they have the Hong Kong Observatory adopt several indicators to understand such kind of heat stress. One is NET. NET, they already combine the air temperature and the relative humidity. Because when they do the weather forecast, this kind of services, they can easily to link the weather forecast data, i.e. the air temperature and relative humidity, to report whether there is heat stress issues in Hong Kong. The other one is the Hong Kong Observatory people, and also the public health researchers from the Chinese university. They developed a new indicator which is called the Hong Kong Heat Index. They already combine these two elements, and also other weather elements, and also that the human biometeorological information. So if you're interested, I can forward information to you. But for my study, why I only focus on the air temperature? Because for example, like the urban heat island effect mainly caused by the built environment. So we must have a further understanding about air temperature distribution. In Hong Kong, we have over 42 observatory stations to capture this kind of local weather data and records, but this is not enough because they're sparsely located in different districts, and they the lack of understanding or information about built environment in Hong Kong. So that is why we adopt the co-curriculum method through the spatial interpolation, try to get further understanding about the built environment's impact. For the second question, actually in Hong Kong, like the last speaker, Dr. Kevin Lau, he mentioned that in Hong Kong we already have the government to do various kind of applications and also the guidelines, government, this kind of things. But this is not enough because the different guidelines, they cover different levels of the implementation. Some more focus at building level, some may focus at urban design or urban planning level. But they're talking about the normal summer situation instead of extreme hot weather situation. So that is why, like the news article I shared, we lack of understanding how the outdoor environment will affect indoor, and because of our building design. So that is why recently we just submitted a proposal, new proposal, to the Hong Kong Research Council, try to get the further understanding and try to improve our building design. So I think as an architect, our planners, they can do more if they aware such kind of hidden agenda. So definitely we can do something. Thank you.
I would also like to supplement to the first question. In one of the studies that Professor Ren showed about the effect of the urban heat island on the mortality risk, in this particular study, there are, they also examine not just the air temperature, but also humidity and wind speed. And in that study, from a public health perspective, so from the general population, the effect of humidity is not significant in that study, shown by that study. Instead, the wind speed, wind speed is a significant factor. So area with low wind speed has a significantly higher mortality risk from the findings of that study. But from the individual physiological response of human body, humidity is a very important factor to how we perceive the thermal environment. How it also governs the thermal sensation and also the overall comfort of how the pedestrian will perceive in the urban environment. So I would say the effect of humidity may not be reflected at a large population level, but at the individual level, it's definitely an important factor.
Yes, sir. I will also to add some supplement. Yeah. In terms of the strategy to tackle the urbanization problem, I also want to give some small advice. I noticed that in mainly China, some cities has already taken some actions to improve the infrastructure. For example, in Chongqing, which is a famous stove city in mainland China, yeah, a simple device is added to the bus station. It is a device that can sprinkle water from the top of the bus station, so the passengers can cool down while they are waiting. So, and another example is providing free ice water. Yeah, some cities put refrigerators on the street and provide free ice water to the outdoor workers. We can take some small modification to the existing facilities to improve the infrastructure. Multiple strategies should be taken, and I think some small modification can make a difference.
Based on the IPCC report and many other studies, including my study, it is virtually certain it's very warm. Consecutive night will dramatically increase under global warming in the future. So I'm just wondering, what is really helpful or practically helpful policy to rescue some really vulnerable population
Okay.
Yeah, the heat house warning system, definitely the major elements. One is heat, the other one is house. But like what I present, the heat house action plan, they definitely will involve more different departments or different kind of efforts to make an improvement. And for example, if you refer to the UK, they also have a new report talk about heat house, heat wave, and adapting to climate change. When they mention about design planning, there are three things. One is how to allocate the greenery space, open space into the downtown areas. And second one is how to provide the water features, this kind of design water bodies. And the last one is building design, how to change that building code. So in Hong Kong, actually we have the similar situations. Even though in Hong Kong we have more than 65% area covered by the greenery, but if you refer to the downtown areas, the urban greenery space, urban greenery is quite limited. And if you refer to the Hong Kong 2030 plus, the government quite ambitious. They try to improve the individual relaxation area from, I think from 3.5 meters, square meters to 7 square meters, something like that. They try to improve this. So the potential question is how to allocate this kind of open space, and we can create a better, healthy living environment for Hong Kong. And another one is in Hong Kong, because previously we have this kind of different kind of window design, but I think more recently we don't encourage this kind of, even a very simple one is how to increase the window ratio and try to get increase this kind of cross natural ventilation for indoors. This is even very small design action, but they can improve a lot. So that is why we have this kind of new proposal. We try to understand how to improve our building design, and also we work together with the housing authority, which is help to design and manage the public housing for Hong Kong. In Hong Kong, it's about 1/3 population living in the public housing, so that definitely will improve a lot.
And the importance of nighttime temperature is not, was not well understood in current practice. For example, in Hong Kong, we have only not more than 20 nighttime heat shelters in Hong Kong. So roughly like one in each district. So it's definitely not enough. So that because the nighttime heat shelter would be one of the measures that can help for example, like the occupants in subdivided unit that they may be able to use during extreme nighttime hot weather. But currently in Hong Kong, our understanding of extreme hot weather was mainly based on the daily maximum temperature or the daytime heat. So for the problem of focusing on daytime heat is that daytime heat usually occurs in the rural area because they're more exposed. So the temperature will be much higher than the urban centers. And during daytime, of course, we have daytime heat shelters, but we also have shopping centers that people can use to relieve such an intense heat. But for nighttime, currently we do not have a very, I would say, very comprehensive measures to adapt to such a nighttime heat or to let people to use during nighttime. So that would be the focus, and that's why we conduct the spatial interpolation of air temperature of Hong Kong, and it shows that like a large, well, I would say over 90% of the urban area would have temperature over 28 degrees in summer. So that would be a problem that actually identified the problem that we are actually lacking such a nighttime heat shelters in Hong Kong.
One very small add-on to the malls. I realized that in Hong Kong, most of the malls have no seating areas at all. So talking about people being able to spend their day there, or like kids staying there for hours, I'm wondering like why this is given like a proposal, because it's like it's impossible to sit there and relax or chill out. It's like there's no place in Hong Kong to
a question for developers.
But probably then it's
But of course, like
pushed
during,
to.
but of course during nighttime, compared to nighttime, during daytime, you have a lot more opportunities for you to adapt.
Okay, can I just, are you going to follow up on that point?
Yeah, I have a follow-up comment. So, yeah, I mean, so like there's a lack of open space in Hong Kong, and it's kind of impossible because the weather is going to become warmer, and if kids want to play, they have to stay in some stadium, indoor spaces. So, is the government trying to think about something, doing something, or can we? Is there any engineering difficulties actually?
I hope through this conference or workshop we can address these needs, because I know they will summarize key points and prepare a report for the government, right? We definitely need to incorporate this point.
And the current standard for provision of open space is 2 square meters per person in urban area. But of course, this is the current standard, and the government aim to raise to about like 3 to 3.5 square meters according to the Hong Kong 2030 Plus. And currently we have 2.7 square meters per person in Hong Kong. But compared to other big cities in Asia, Shanghai, Tokyo, even Singapore, I'm not sure about the figures in Singapore, but I mean, in Shanghai it's about like 7 square meters. So we are a lot behind the major cities in Asia. Yeah. But of course we have a lot more limitations. We have lack of land, compact, dense urban area. But I would say the design of outdoor spaces would be important under such a circumstance, because we don't have much spaces, and therefore the design or even the smaller spaces will serve a big purpose. Because a lot of people would prefer small open spaces that is close to their living environment, rather than a district park that they need to travel. Yeah, so I think the provision of the open space would be important in Hong Kong.
Thanks for your patience. Yes.
Yeah, I wrote quick comment. I guess your measurement of open space has to do where you draw the boundary, right? The overall Hong Kong is a pretty big area. There's country parks and a lot of green spaces, but the city center is a totally different story. Also having to do with the spatial configuration. A lot of European cities that have the smaller parks in the middle, and that kind of configuration they play a better role. But anyway, I want to ask you another question. For the speaker from Singasen University, you presented the data for the summer heat in 2017, 2018. I'm just wondering how that compared to the summer heat in 2003, especially for the hotspot in Europe, and how that compared, what's the difference? I would assume there was higher temperature in this last summer and summer last year. To follow up on that question is, we see the report, numerous report, particularly the World Development Report 2010, which document well presented in Europe, where there are thousands, tens of thousands deaths from the heat waves in 2003. And the data you just presented is much smaller scale. And why? Well, maybe all of you can help to answer. What happened between then and now, within the 1.5 decades, right? Much less, much smaller casualty. Well, it's still very large, but it's not tens of thousands anymore. And what happened?
Yeah, okay, thanks for the question. Yeah, the first question is, how's about the temperature in the recent 2 years compared to the 2003?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, the global mean temperature in the recent 4 years are the top 4 years. Yeah, so the warmest year is 2016. 16,
summer temperature.
Yeah. So the 2003 heat wave leads to numerous deaths, about tens of thousands, because then it is an unprecedented heat wave, and people are not so ready for this stroke. Yeah. And in Asian region, and especially the tropical region, we are more adapting to this hot summer. So I think we are more ready for this high temperature. Yeah.
Thank you for your question. Very interesting point. You know, in 2000, not only in 2003 but also in 2006, European cities they experience such kind of extreme hot weather situation. And if you refer to the research field of urban climate and climate change, most researchers from European countries, they since 2006, they have this kind of they put a huge effort in this field. For example, if you refer to the Holland, Netherlands, they have a national key research which is called Knowledge for Climate. So they put the scientists from modeling, from the urban planning, from the policy, all the whole nation of the researchers, they put effort on this. So that is why right now, if you check this kind of heat warning system in most European cities, they work. So that is why, comparing to the 2003, 2006, even now we have more severe extreme hot weather situation, but people have less this kind of deaths, and definitely some part of the reason because of the heat warning system. And another one is when we talk about this the extreme hot weather situations, apart from the health department, like the government side, they also put an effort try to do some policy. So like the UK, the Parliament, and also the French government, and also the Netherlands, Germany, they do this kind of the policy change. For example, when the French government, the meteorology department issued the hot warning system, extreme hot weather warning system, they have to consult the hospital authority, and also the public department of public health. They need to estimate what is the potential impact for such kind of weather forecast of the extreme hot weather. Once they make an estimation, they will negotiation, then they will prepare to issue this kind of hot weather situation. Then they also inform all kinds of NGOs, the services for elderly people. So you can see they do this kind of preparation, and also they improve the public awareness. So that is why nowadays, even we have the extreme hot weather situation, they have less people died. And another thing, if you read some documents or papers, they always treat extreme hot weather situation like a hidden risk. Why? Because we lack of the public health records. For example, today we talk about the hot weather, hot nights situation, and if everyone will suffer this, because if you, apart from turn on the air conditioning, if you cannot have a very good sleep, like if you suffer the sleep problems, your body cannot recover to the second days. And that is why many researchers in Japan and also in other countries, apart from the normal public health studies like the heat-related mortality, morbidity, they also do a study like the heat, this kind of sleeping disorder problems. And because of this, they can cause potential other disease or problems for your body. So I think we need to consider how to get a more comprehensive evaluation for this kind of extreme hot weather impact. Yeah. Thank you.
What how much of that has to do with the data collection? Because the 2003 data seems quite dramatic to me. I've never seen any original source of that data. Have you ever seen the original source of that data?
Sorry, can I jump in? Are you referring to the European heat wave,
Yeah.
35,000 deaths that occurred?
Right, right. Anyone have ever seen the original data? The original source of that data?
I mean, depends on what kind of data you're talking about.
We're talking
The
about
weather
that
forecast
35,000,
data, greenhouse data.
like 7,000 from Germany, that 20,000 from France.
Yeah.
I mean, where's that data?
I think probably from the national CDC. But at least some papers show
There
the
are several
data
papers
source.
of science that actually look into that, as well as try to attribute the risk involved for climate change towards why the exposure.
They're quite dramatic.
Those are dramatic, but as Chow mentioned, it's a case study. I did my PhD at ASU where we focus a lot on extreme heat, mortality, comorbidity issues as well. It's treated like what the lessons from what happened in 2003 are used as a teaching guide to other cities, not just in hot, dry areas like in Phoenix or here in Hong Kong or in Singapore, but everywhere else in terms of how to adequately prepare for such an event, what to do during the event, and what to do after the event. Okay,
An example just occurred to me for what have happened in such as Europe. There are several at the beginning of the about 2010, I went to visit Western Europe, and then at that time there was no air condition, even no fans in the house, indoor. So when a heat wave attacked, people just go outside, has ice cream and something like that. So they don't have the facility to tackle this extreme weather. But I think after then, after these severe events, both the public and the government have put more investment into these facilities. Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, I want to address another issue for mainland China, because if you refer to the extreme hot weather indicators, they only say when temperature above 40 degrees Celsius, the whole nation of the National Weather Bureau will issue the warning. But considering the China is quite big, they're covering all kinds of different climate regions. For example, we have extreme cold region, cold, temperate climate, tropical, subtropical. So we cannot use one indicator to express the whole nation's extreme hot weather situation. So definitely, I think mainland researchers or the government have to do something to improve this part of the extreme weather situation.
Last request for any questions on the floor before I exercise my moderator's right to ask a question. None? Okay. One question for each of the three presenters. Prof. Chen, the area that you focused on for the 2017 heat wave was in a part of the Indian Ocean, which some of my colleagues from the Singapore Weather Service and also from the Australian Bureau of Meteorology would argue as part of the Indian Ocean dipole. Do you agree with that being separate, or do you think that interconnection would be more relevant as a sort of predictor or co-predictor in that heat wave event? So that's my question. My question to Prof. now is, in Singapore, when I try to tell people it's not enough to look at air temperatures, and I say, let's look at PET, which is what you did, and they stare at me with blank eyes and say, but we're so used to using air temperatures to measure heat. Do you have that sort of similar challenges when you try to tell the students or tell important stakeholders or policymakers that, look, we need other sort of heat indices, and why we want to use PET as opposed to something else like heat index, UTCI, or the whole alphabet soup of heat indices? So how do you deal or how do you resolve that particular challenge? And my last question to Prof. is that Hong Kong is at the forefront of the combination or conflation of both extreme urbanization and at the forefront of extreme heat events in the future, both from the heat island and from some of the extreme heat events. What important lessons do you think you can help educate other cities, like Singapore, if you were to tell people that what important takeaways can the Hong Kong experience help inform future development
Thanks for the question. The extreme weather results from various factors, and sea surface temperature is emphasized as an important external forcing. The signal from various regions work in combination to influence the climate. And as you mentioned, in the ocean dipole mode, I think it's important for the South Asia climate. But in these two cases, I didn't notice that a dipole mode is there. Yes, in these two summers. But in the 2018, cold signal is observed over the southeastern tropical Indian Ocean, but it's different from the dipole mode. I mean, the SST in different regions may make a contribution, but every year it differs. So for case studies, the signal may be quite different. But in the statistic perspective, I think I have to do more to take more samples to get a significant results. Yeah, in fact, except this external forcing, the internal forcing is also very important. That makes the prediction very, very difficult. So the internal forcing, such as the mid-latitude circulation, which is not in some extent it is not predictable, makes the prediction of the extreme weather very difficult.
So I would say air temperature is more easier or more widely understood because it is easier to forecast air temperature than humidity or even wind speed. But the problem of using PET is, of course, difficult to forecast because one of the important components is solar radiation, and solar radiation can be very variable within the urban environment. Because when you're in the shade, the PET value will drop like up to 10 degrees when compared to when you are at the sun. So, but having said that, the designers would consider PET because it is easy for them to create a diversity of the environment. But of course, like for weather forecast, it's really impossible to forecast PET. But from our studies, especially from the thermal comfort survey, people sense the difference in PET. So we find stronger correlation in PET than air temperature in our thermal comfort study 10 years ago. And so I would say the PET can be felt by the pedestrians, and designers can design the environment based on the variation of PET within the urban environment. So that would be the application of PET instead of weather forecast by the Hong Kong Observatory. I would say that.
Very interesting question. Hong Kong and Singapore are competitive cities, we all know that. So I would like to say, every time when we talk to our local governors, our officials, we always use Singapore as example. We always say Singapore is a city, a garden, not only just garden city. They do a lot of this kind of improvement and also consider try to improve the living conditions. And so this definitely we have to learn from Singapore. But based on my experience through so many years collaboration with local government, I think our government, when they realize there is a problems or issues, they will take very quick actions, and also cross these departments, collaborations and effort will try to put forward or solve this kind of problem. That is the thing I learned. So nowadays, not only Singapore or Hong Kong, even mainland China, they can have this kind of high technology, the modeling, the tools, but more important, when the policy, they have to be realized or when they take real action. So the system, i.e. the government side, how the policy, they make a change. I think this is the key issue. Yeah, and also I think Hong Kong could be a good example, also can be a bad example in terms of the high density or compact living. We definitely made many mistakes in the past few years from the planning policy or planning department, but we try to make an effort to revise to make something change in terms of high density. So that is why, for example, in some new town in Hong Kong, they already consider more about urban climate and air ventilation assessment into the new town plan, and also the old town renewal, this kind of exercise. And also in Hong Kong, we create a new idea, i.e. when we do the design and also planning, we are not only consider just a paper, i.e. the two-dimensional, this kind of information. We have to treat the city from the three-dimensional, i.e. we need to consider more vertical information, how to control our urban morphology and building morphology from vertical perspective. I think that is things we can share with other high-density cities. Thank you.
Okay. We thank the three speakers today for that wonderful session and wonderful discussion. And I think that concludes the end of this workshop. I believe it's time for lunch. Is it downstairs?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, everybody.